Something strange is going on, and it irked me, so I'm going to bring this to everyone's attention. There's been fires breaking out across the country, and it's been attacking food processing plants. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I've got a couple of sources here to show that I'm not just full of it. Timcast.com brings us an interesting article. Strange trend on food processing plant fires across the U.S. 16 fires have broken out at food processing plants, impacting the nation's supply of beef and poultry. The fires have been regularly showing up after a fire closed a Tyson food plant in the Kansas City area. The location was primarily beef and did about 6% of the U.S. beef. After the fire, people have been speculating could drive up the market prices for meat nationwide. Uh, Later in the days of August 2021, the Petak meat processing facility burned near Atlanta. The media took notice because the family owned business and his beloved community locally, and all of his products are purchased nationwide. There's a fire in Georgia that had a minor impact, but in September, a fire at the JBS USA meat processing facility in Nebraska threatened the meat supply of the entire nation profoundly. The plant reportedly processed about 5% of the nation's beef, and the closure would directly impact the supply chain. The trend has continued repeatedly through 2021 into 2022. And on this website, planet-today.com, several large U.S. food processing plants have mysteriously exploded or burned down. Since the start of the year, several large food processing plants have mysteriously exploded or caught fire across the U.S. With the current supply chain situation looming, food shortages, and the thought of critical infrastructure burning to the ground, for whatever reason, is very concerning. People are starting to wonder what's going on. Lights flickered, and they heard a pop, and went there to check it out, and it was a fire. According to the report made to Wasco County 911 records listed at the Wasco County Sheriff's Log, the independent distributor of a natural, organic, non-GMO foods, which employed about 150 people, burned to the ground. 1 week before that, there was a fire in Oregon. A massive fire brought down a meat processing plant in Conway, New Hampshire. After burning for 16 hours, multiple fire crews finally put out the fire at East Conway beef and pork, but the facility is completely destroyed. At the same week in Salinas, California, a massive fire at the Taylor Farms processing facility led to the evacuation of all residents as it burned for over 17 hours. Just before that, massive fires engulfed a Walmart distribution center in Plainfield, Indiana, where 1,000 employees shipped food to other supplies all over the region. The fires destroyed a massive 1 million square foot operation. The same week, one of the largest food facilities of its kind in South Texas caught fire and burned to the ground. Prior to that, Rio Fresh facility in San Juan, Texas, grew, packed, and shipped a variety of Texas-grown items, including Texas 1015 sweet onions, melons, greens, cabbage, kale. The fire is currently unknown. I have here a list of food processing centers or plants that have burned down. April 21, 2022, General Mills plant, Covington, Georgia. 2 people died after a plane crashed into an empty lot of the General Mills plant in Covington, Georgia. Used to store tractor trailers, witnesses believe the aircraft had trouble gaining altitude when it suddenly veered right and immediately came down into the lot. April 18th, 2022, Azure Standard, Delphor, Oregon. The headquarters of the Azure Standard, a premier independent distributor of organic and healthy food, was destroyed in a fire. April 13th, 2022, Gem State Processing, Hayburn, Idaho. An experienced USPS pilot's plane crashed into the roof of the potato and food processing plant, killing the pilot instantly. April 13th, 2022, Taylor Farms, Salinas, California. Reports say a fire started on the wall, spread rapidly to the attic at the 225,000 processing plant, a major producer of fruits and vegetables. More than 100 firefighters were needed to contain the blaze, as there was concerns of the ammonia explosion at the plant. April 11th, 2022, East Conway Beef and Pork, Conway, New Hampshire. A massive fire destroyed the butcher shop and meat market. Neighbors helped to corral the cattle freed when the fire broke out. The marshals are trying to figure out how the fire started. But the same facility burned 10 years ago. March 31st, 2022. Rio Fresh Incorporated, San Juan, Texas. Third generation family farming operation grows, packs, ships to Texas grown items. We just talked about that one. March 28th, 2022, in Arizona. 50,000 pounds of food were destroyed after the fire engulfed a food bank just 15 minutes after it closed. March 2024, potato processing facility in Maine. Massive fire reported has started at one of its fryer machines, caused smoke so thick that active flames weren't visible. March 16th, 2022, Walmart in Plainfield. We just covered that one. March 16th, Nestle plant in Arkansas. Fire with an explosion that caused extensive damage to the product line, which produces frozen foods like Stouffer's, Lean Cuisine, Dorino, Tombstone, Hot Pockets, Sweet Earth brands. March 14th, Wayne Hoover Dairy Farm. More than 20 fire companies responded to the massive fire at the county, which was destroyed in a blaze. 42 cows in the barn managed to get out safely, but sadly one cow died. March 28th, 2022, Nutrition AG Solutions of Wisconsin. Wisconsin? I think WA is Washington. A tremendous commercial structure fire at the fertilization plant started a smoldering sulfur, according to the reports. February 28th, Shadowbrook Farm in New Hampshire. At 4:30, the fire gutted the $200,000 facility and landed one of the owners in the hospital. 2022 in February, Shears Foods in Oregon. A massive explosion and fire destroyed the potato chip plant. February 2022, 3 people were injured and hospitalized as an ammonia leak at the plant, which supplies Costco chicken products. February 18th, Best View Farm in Vermont. VT, I think that's Vermont. Fire believed to have begun around 2 a.m. at the milking parlor, destroyed a barn, displaced nearly 800 cows. February 16th, in Indiana, Claypool. A fire broke out at the largest soybean and biodiesel processing plant. February 3rd, 2022, a dairy farm set fire. Fertilizing plant in North Carolina. And the list just keeps going on. Something is weird going on. Something is very interestingly going on. Food shortages in America by Bazinga. We should worry about the recent string of food processing plants disasters. Higher food prices and shortages. Our system has been betting on higher food since the early of this year. And of course, the war in Ukraine has put an upward pressure on food as an emergency. But now Twitter correspondents warn that we may have food shortages in America as well. Let's start with a case of higher prices and consider the warnings of shortages and what to do about them. Betting on higher foods and energy prices. 1 month before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, our system's top names have shifted into energy and food focus. At the Post, we noticed that the 2 oil EP stocks and 2 oil ETFs and coffee ETN and corn ETF was our top names. And the potential returns are here. I'm not really an economist. I don't know too much about what's going on there. But they're listing the string of disasters as well, with the food processing plants and warehouses. Something is definitely going weird. Although they do say warehouse fires are nothing new, they happen every year, you've just not been paying attention. It's possible that we just have not been paying attention to it. However, there's been a lot of fires within just a short span. And with food prices being as what they were, with a possible recession coming our way, with possibly even a depression coming our way, now is definitely a time, if you can afford it, please stock up on dry goods. Stock up on stuff with high shelf lives. This isn't called a panic buy. Just buy a little bit extra at a time. Nobody should be going hungry. Sadly, a lot of people do. It's possible that this is just over speculation. It's completely possible. But sometimes it's better to be right than wrong. So I would recommend people, the trope is rice and beans, but I would go and look for anything like emergency food kits. There's buckets. I think what is it? There's one. I'm gonna do this in real time. Safe and ready meals. Safe and ready meals. I believe it is the safeandreadymeals.com is the tag, and you can. Well, here's one. My Patriot Supply. Emergency food. You throw them on a shelf. They're good for 30 years. A lot of people will laugh at me like, oh, it's prepper nonsense. Well, sometimes it rains. Other times, if you live in the Midwest, you know how our snow systems are. Sometimes it gets snow bad enough and everyone will get locked in for several weeks. I'm just saying, please be prepared. Something weird is going on, and we all need to be just a little bit more cautious. So if you can afford it, I would highly recommend getting a stockpile. Buy extra coffee every now and again. Because, why not? Coffee's good. You can store it away. A lot of time they get that fresh and seal pack on it and just won't even bother. Just buy an extra one. Buy more tea if you drink tea. I think now is a time to kind of be really worried about what you need to do. And with the food shortages coming, and with a lot of different inflation types coming, it's better to be prepared. This is just more or less a warning. Maybe you should consider not buying that high-ticket electronic item and maybe buying more food. You can't eat electronics. Well, you can, but then you'd be in the hospital, and nobody wants that. So until then, stay safe, people, and just kind of keep an eye out. That's all. Stay cool.